we go. Hi, and welcome to the Regenerative Revolution. I'm Jacki Saorsail, and this is Isaiah Urth, and we are here to discuss Isaiah's urban regenerative gardening project, UrthKynd, that he is starting in Los Angeles, and he also has some other locations that he's connected to, and his big vision is to start a urban gardening network with lots of different gardens all over that are doing things regeneratively, teaching people regenerative agriculture, and providing free or low-cost food to historically underserved communities. And so we've been working through developing a business model for this. Over the last few sessions, we've discussed his vision, we've discussed his value proposition, and we're now at an interesting point in the conversation because as we've tried to narrow down from this big vision what it is that he's going to start with in the last session, this idea of him maybe starting with growing microgreens or even mushrooms in his own house came up. And whereas all of the other ideas that we had discussed previously seemed kind of nebulous and not that exciting, this one we both got really excited about and started to discuss. And, I apologize to the audience. Probably the best part of our last discussion was right after we got off of the live stream. We had a little checkout and we started to just brainstorm and have a little nerd out session talking about how to grow mushrooms and microgreens indoors. And yeah, we seem to both be really excited about this idea, but not quite sure yet how exactly it fits into the big picture of what he wants to do. And so, I want to, in our conversation today, kind of take a step back and look at this idea in the context of the big vision, maybe starting with Isaiah telling us some about, why this idea of doing this indoor growing is exciting to him and, how it's regenerative. And then we can talk about how it fits into that big vision and try to connect the dots of how we could go from him just growing things in his own house to eventually having these, outdoor operations and these big kind of volunteer operations going on with the community. And then maybe we can get back to the step that we're at, which is expressing financial goals and doing some financial projections for this project. So as you can see below me, there is my Regenerative Enterprise Design workbook, and we've been filling this out over the last few sessions. Currently, we are on this financial goals. We didn't get past the first thing last time because we kind of got stuck on figuring out what it is exactly that he's doing. Before we get started, I want to set a little bit more context. We're streaming live here on Twitch. I intend this to be a community conversation because this is a community project. Even if he starts in his own house, he is wanting to expand this out into his community. So I would really love to have some people on here discussing this from his community. And I think that's my next step, is to do some marketing specifically targeting people in LA. Hopefully find some people who are interested in helping out with this in person. So if you're watching this now on YouTube, please check out the links below to figure out when we're going to be meeting next. And I hope you'll join us live. I don't think we're going to have anybody with us today. We kind of scheduled this last minute anyway, but that's fine. We're just going to work through where we're at. Let's also just start with a little check-in for Isaiah. How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you. It's been a wonderful week and planning for fall and doing the research on microgreens. So yeah, it's been great.
Awesome, thanks. I'm doing well as well. Just been really busy, having lots of sessions this week. So I'm excited that things are moving along and excited that this project is, moving along. We're getting more specific. Okay. Yeah, last time, just to catch us up with where I'm at with these crazy notes, I'd ask you what your financial goals were, and we started talking about growing things on the plots that you have there in LA and talking about maybe getting some grow pots and growing some vegetables with the pile of composted wood chips that you have out there. And, I'd still like to see you do something with that fairly soon. I mean, having a pile of compost just sitting there, isn't good because eventually it's going to dry out and some of the nutrients are going to evaporate and the wood chips would break down and turn into, compost eventually as well. So, I think we should talk about doing something there as well. But then we started talking about the idea of microgreens. So we're kind of at that point. But yeah, stepping back, tell us some about this idea of growing microgreens and why that excites you.
Well, the microgreens, they really excite me because they're very quick turnaround. So it's easy you can test the market pretty quick. They're also known for being very, very healthy, very nutrient dense. They're lightweight, so they're pretty easy to cart them around. Mm-hmm. And you don't really need like a medium. I mean, you can have a medium, or you can have soil, or some people are even growing on like cocoa mats. So very versatile, and yeah, I see some good opportunity, and it's definitely something that if it didn't sell, it's something that can be eaten pretty easily, incorporated into anything else, and yeah, I just think there's so many flavor varieties too that there's got to be something that someone likes. You can go kind of savory or sweet, depending on what you grow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many benefits. They really excite me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. And then what the audience missed last time was us nerding about the possibility of growing microgreens and mushrooms. And I was thinking about that a little bit more since then. So I wanted to just throw out my ideas that I've been ruminating about. So the idea of growing mushrooms and microgreens in the same space is very interesting because microgreens are plants. They inhale carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen, and mushrooms are like us. They inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. So I played with this idea a lot because I had a mushroom farm myself. I grew mushrooms in my basement for several years, and I played around this idea of combining plants and mushrooms in the same space because they would feed each other those essential elements, and then you wouldn't have to do as much air exchange with the outside, because that's what made mushroom farming really difficult, is that we had to constantly bring in fresh air, and that meant that we were constantly bless you, we were constantly competing with the outdoor air temperature, the outdoor humidity. You have to keep mushrooms at very high humidity. And so, it's just very energy intensive to keep it the same. And, as we were just saying before we started, different mushrooms need different things. And there are some mushrooms like oyster mushrooms that are incredibly easy to grow. They're just so voracious. They don't need very specific temperature. Like there's a wider temperature range. It's a wider humidity range. They need to be moist, but they'll grow on just about anything. You don't even have to sterilize the substrate. You can just pasteurize it. You can grow mushrooms on pretty much any carbaceous, carbon-rich material. You can grow it on straw or wood or corn cobs or like cottonseed hulls or even charcoal. It'll just grow on anything. So that's a very versatile mushroom if you wanted to start with that. And then we have the other like more medicinal mushrooms like Shiitake, lion's mane, reishi, and those are a little bit more particular with their substrate. They're more particular with their temperature. But the idea that I had thrown out last time that I've been thinking about even more since then was this idea of growing these medicinal mushrooms for their medicinal properties and not even growing them out to fruiting, but rather just growing them on an edible substrate on rice and then selling the rice as a medicinal food product that would be relatively low cost compared to the fruiting bodies that you can get like $18 a pound. But with what you're talking about, with the purpose and the vision of your organization being feeding people, in these underserved communities, low income neighborhoods, they're not going to spend $18 a pound on mushrooms. So, it wouldn't really be fitting with your mission to just be selling fancy mushrooms to restaurants. But if you could grow mushrooms on rice and sell that for a much more affordable price, that would be a way to provide a really nutritionally rich product to people, and they might be even more willing to eat it because it doesn't taste and doesn't have the texture so much of mushrooms. So yeah, I was wondering if you're still interested in that, because I could give you more details. I mean, I could tell you exactly how I think that could be done, and it would be really easy to experiment with and see if that would work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get lost a lot in the science of the mushrooms and being really concerned about cross contamination and things. But my understanding is that with a good like an air purifier, air cleanser in a room, even if it's like a 500 square foot room, just get one that's adequate for that, and then I guess air exchange. Are those the two main things? But yeah, I'm very, very interested, especially as selling them as a package or as an incentive. If someone buys microgreens, they get a discount, or they get free mushrooms somehow, or if somebody buys mushrooms, or they get discount on.
Selling them together.
Yeah, because together they're just a powerhouse, and if you could like chop them up and put them in a salad and mix them up, like for me, I don't like to taste the mushroom unless there's so many ways you can cook it, right? So raw or just stir fried and things. But I guess people need to also have the education, like what are all the different things that can be done with it? Because that was my biggest barrier with mushrooms, was like the taste and the texture.
Yeah.
But when I learned that you can mix them with like meat, you've got, let's say you're making chicken sausages or something for somebody who eats meat or whatever, and then you can do 50% mushroom, 50% chicken, and like that chicken will go a lot further. So, yeah, definitely still interested.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I could give that to you. I'm just excited about what I thought through of the details of how that could be done. And I'd really love for you to run that experiment, because I don't have the time or the space. But if you have extra, capacity to try that out and see if it would work, that would be cool. But yeah, if you want to start, with microgreens, you're sure you want to do that, we can totally talk more about that. So yeah, you said last time that you have 4 racks that would altogether hold 30 flats. So wait, before we get there though, hold up, I'm skipping ahead. So that's why you're excited about the microgreens. I wanted to, before we get into the weeds with that, connect growing microgreens indoors with that big vision of having community gardens, and how would you get from here to there?
Well, the racks will actually hold, I want to say 20, I think it's 25 each. I need to check.
Okay, 25.
I need to double check on that. I think it's like 25 to 30 flats per rack.
Okay.
And yeah, I ran some little, like I got some research and did little numbers on it, so I can run by you. But yeah, the mushrooms and the microgreens together, I see them as, along with the other vegetables, on a smaller scale, for one, using what we already have, which is it's like a permaculture principle, right? And it's also very just good, I guess, business smart. We use what we have, and it's in great shape, and it saves a lot of money to have the professional grade. I think they're like food grade racks too. They say NSF on them. I'm not sure if that. I'm not sure. I need to check on that. But yeah, I just see those three things as catalysts towards the bigger
Mm-hmm.
picture, the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate sort of the cause, which is having a half acre to an acre location
Mm-hmm.
where where can really crank out the abundance and educate people and do it on a much bigger scale. So I
Mm-hmm.
see it as a proof of concept. You say in this 500 square feet and just 1,000 square feet, however much it is, indoor, outdoor,
Mm-hmm.
quantify all those numbers and those yields, and it's a great first step.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're growing in an urban environment, you have less space. So when you can grow these really um, uh, not space intensive, these smaller
Mm-hmm.
crops that you can grow
Like
vertically,
microcrops.
yeah, microcrops.
Yeah.
That definitely is more
Mm-hmm.
cost effective,
It's a huge incentive.
yeah, and
Yeah.
when your cost per square foot, of renting or buying space is high, you got to make the
Mm-hmm.
most of that. Yeah, so that makes total sense. The idea of starting this like in your house, I mean, it's basically that's the idea I had when I started my mushroom farm is I was going to start this, indoor year-round operation to get a full-time income for myself to support myself so that I could not work anywhere else, so that I could put all of my time and energy into farming, and then I would expand that operation to a point where I could hire other people and then put them on that kind of day-to-day grunt labor, and then I could focus my energy on expanding and diversifying and adding other crops and recruiting other people to help grow other things or to have their own little operation in the space. And of course I was going to do it as a cooperative, but to build it out into this whole cooperative farm that has a garden with vegetables and chickens and eventually goats, and of course I was thinking more out in the country just outside of town, but I was eventually wanting that to be like an intentional community and have other people living out there and whatnot, but doing it even in the very middle of a city is totally doable with just a space. It could be a garden space and then a building that could have an indoor grow space, maybe a kitchen as well. That makes total sense, and I bet there's lots of spaces in LA that would be great for that, but just having indoor and outdoor space. But yeah, making the most of the indoor space because you can do that year round and it's consistent and it can support somebody to work on it full time. That makes sense as a place to start rather than something that's just going to be like part time or on and off in the seasons.
Yeah, I feel like, especially being in such an urban and it's a dense environment, you just have to use what you have to your benefit. So, if we don't have a ton of land and we're on a small parcel,
Mm-hmm.
then we can figure out. It's like implementing those permaculture principles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, what I'm imagining would be some step process where you start the mushrooms in your house, or not mushrooms, microgreens, maybe mushrooms, in your
Mhm.
house, and then develop that to the point where it's enough income to justify getting a bigger space,
Mhm.
and then getting that, whether it's donated, whether you do this as a nonprofit and get some space donated, or whether you do this as a for-profit and rent or purchase some space, getting like some building with an outdoor space, um, and then expanding out into that. And my cat is like attacking a bag like right next to me. Like I want
That's
to
okay.
make her stop because I
My
know.
dog's attacking a shoe. It's fine. I don't know
Cat,
if you can hear it, but he's in the other room.
stop. Oh my god. Oh, so annoying.
I love those animals.
Hmm.
They're like it's like having toddlers, but they're really fast and they can walk really quickly and they can get around, they're great.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Um yeah, like we don't know yet what kind of space you could get. Having some idea of that would be good if you could do
Mm-hmm.
some research looking at spaces. Trying to fall in love with anything though, because I've done
Mm-hmm.
that a few
Mm-hmm.
times. Just like, oh my god, this space would be perfect, and then it's like too early, too soon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's an abundance. I mean, you just have to know where to look. But I mean, right off the top of my head, I know a few places that are very cost effective, even some that offer unlimited electricity. And those would be kind of like you know, building relationships. They'd probably get some food or something like that. But I've seen some nice opportunities fairly recently, like with places that people can't use anymore for shops, or they can't use anymore for or just extra commercial space that they have that they're not using, um, you know that belongs to a bigger business, and so they can offer, like, to an extent, free electricity. Like for microgreens, it's really cheap. So, and I love actually the concept of doing both together, because I feel like there's a symbiosis there, especially with the used substrate, with the used soil, putting that together and, you know, re-amending that or putting it into a worm bin or compost. I feel like that stuff really adds up in terms of your nutrients and reintroducing those nutrients back into the farm, and or even selling it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, yeah, I think there's a real potential closed loop cycle possible with growing indoor and outdoor that is truly regenerative. And I hate it when people say that regenerative agriculture has to be outside and it's just about land. It's not just about land. Regenerative isn't just about land. I mean, that
Yeah,
is an
yeah,
important part of it, but um, you have to have inputs. Where are those inputs coming from?
yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
inputs have to be made inside. Like
You
Korean
still have to
natural
have the
farming.
inputs.
Like if you're doing Korean natural farming, you have to ferment those things.
Hmm.
And yeah, some of it you can do it outside some of the time, but a lot of you have to do inside.
Hmm.
So indoors is an important part of the whole system.
Hmm.
It
Yeah,
is a
I mean,
part of the system.
the beautiful thing is that it can all be utilized, like every single space, really. And it just takes,
Mm-hmm.
time and money, and sometimes not even money, just like ingenuity. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
wish I was more of a builder. That's a skill that I always wish that I had an expertise in, because, there's been so many times that I've wanted to build things, um, and not having it as your greatest skill set, it can be a real hindrance, but I'm just, the more I look around, it's like every wall could literally be, I mean, maybe you can't sell that because it's a wall and it's in a, I don't know the regulations, so for personal use, um, but yeah, this is definitely regenerative, and it packs a big punch when it comes to immunity and cell regeneration and all that healthy stuff that we really need nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, there's detoxification effects and all that. So I think the benefits per square foot far um, are really, really worth it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So let's just get into the weeds then with starting your microgreens. So you have 4 racks that hold 25 to 30 flats each. What else do you need to get this started?
Okay, so let me just pull this up. Lights, 4-foot lights. You can get six pack for $45. Um, and the trays, can grab 50 of those for $100. So that'll, uh, I would like to maybe do double the trays. Um, but actually for another 100, no, 100 would be great just to start off. That would be, if they hold 25, 25 trays each. So we would actually want to do, I think, 200, because we want to have some coming up behind
200
those.
trays.
Yeah.
So that would be
So
$400.
200. Wait,
I thought you said it was $100
50.
for 50.
I'm sorry, 100. I'm looking at I'm mixing up the
Oh.
numbers. The $100 worth of 50 trays.
Okay.
100 trays for $200.
Wait, 100 trays for $200.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 100 trays for $200.
And it's probably.
Wait. It's 100 trays for $200, and you want 200 trays. That would still be $400.
Oh yeah. No. Okay, so I made a mistake. We just need 100 trays to begin with to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then for the lights, that would be about 200 or 180 in lights.
Okay.
LED, low cost.
Okay. Wait, is that including the fixtures and the bulbs?
Yeah, that comes with everything. And then from there, it's really just zip tying the lights to the trays, and we've got our substrate already, or I mean our medium.
What medium were you going to use?
I have compost. So I have this organic. It's from, I can't remember the name, but it's a bagged stuff that I was using to amend. It's called Amend, actually, and I was using it in the garden because the soils are so hard. So I was using it to amend our existing soil here, and then so I have an abundance of that would get us through like probably the first 10 cycles, if not more.
Okay. Yeah, we were talking about you can then take the compost, or are you gonna just sell the whole thing with the like? How are you gonna sell this?
I was thinking by the trays, although
but how are you actually gonna deliver it if you're are you keeping the trays to reuse them, or are you selling the whole tray with the greens? What's going on?
So I had a couple ideas. It says that the research was saying that they are yielding about $25 a pound, and about 50 pounds per microgreens per 60 square feet every 2 weeks.
Wait, did you say $5 per pound?
25.
$25 per pound. Sorry, that sounds about right. Wait, and that's for just the greens. Are you talking about like cutting the greens off of the substrate and just selling the greens?
Yeah, so that's one idea, is like selling it by the half pound, by the pound. However, when you cut it, then it starts to oxidize, and it
goes bad really quickly.
It has a very low shelf life. So then we're dealing with cooling. You get a little more life out of it, and it's a lot fresher when people can just cut it on their own right out of the tray. Right. But the other consideration is, will people return those trays? We have to have obviously a method, which is easy, to really sterilize them. And I guess there would have to be a deposit on the trays, unless they're like a commercial client, like a restaurant that supports the community that's not yet doing microgreens. And the benefit would be that they're getting these low cost, competitively priced microgreens because we're local. We're hyper local to these businesses, and they can then implement them into their menu. Now, we wouldn't need a deposit or anything on those trays, because they would just return the trays when they're done using them. But yeah, then other factors come into play, like wear and tear and broken trays.
Yeah, I mean, another option would be to use some disposable, or even there's biodegradable trays. You could use like biodegradable food trays. like that are made out of paper, basically,
Oh, that's a great idea.
and just
Yeah.
sell them in that, like little this big kind of trays or something.
Oh, yeah. The personal for like personal
Yeah,
trays.
yeah.
That's a great
I'm
idea.
looking at some biodegradable trays. I mean, the other option would be to grow on a medium that's like a more solid that you can just like lift up out of the tray and just cut it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And then I think one of the big considerations with selling it by the tray also was that I was reading that once you process it and cut it and bag it, you're adding another step, and that's a step that needs to be licensed. I guess it has to be basically you're processing it at that point.
Right. Like
Yeah, and
lettuce.
so it should be done in a food grade like kitchen, and then that
Yeah.
really adds to the cost. So I want to stay like completely compliant, but I don't want to add these extra, you know, fees and licenses and all that until the time is sort of right for that, you know?
Yeah. And it seems to me it might be better to grow it on like those mats, like they're
Mm.
made of bamboo or jute or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and I mean you could actually like have little pre-cut pieces and just lay them in the trays and then
Mm-hmm.
just like sell those either in, I mean they make those like plastic bubble things that they're often sold in. I wonder if there's something you could use that would be better, like just shove it in a paper bag and
Mm-hmm.
hold it sideways or something. uh, some
Mm-hmm.
more environmentally friendly packaging.
Yeah, and that's a lot cleaner than the soil. I'd have to look into like the rules and regulations behind that, because I think that in some places when you're selling commercially into the public, they actually want you to use I think soilless helps overcome those barriers. I didn't get a chance to look into the actual laws and things like that, the compliance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously that's going to be
Yeah,
an
there's lots of
important
these
factor.
microgreens grow mat, and I'm sorry, I should be showing this to everybody. Let me look. I looked up compostable microgreen trays,
Hmm.
and let me just show this to the audience. So yeah, that's, I mean, if you want to Google this too, you'd have the same results. So there's like a biodegradable tray, and then I'm seeing these hydroponic mats
Mm.
um, that, yeah, look like they're probably pretty cheap. We're looking at a 50 pack for $15
Wow.
for those little trays. And then, I mean, they're like hydroponic. You could use maybe Korean natural farming so that it's natural.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Oh, these compostable containers. Oh, and then another thing
mhm,
was yeah, I love the compostable container idea. That's great.
mhm.
Um, yeah, because it could even be grown in the actual little containers.
Mm-hmm. And then you
I
could
mean,
use compost.
hmm. Hmm.
And I mean, you're just selling a plant in a tray. Like, I don't think there's any health department stuff
Hmm.
if you're selling a whole plant that's growing in dirt.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another really good market I found, or website, is called True Leaf Market,
Mm-hmm.
and they have an amazing selection of all the seeds and like everything that you need
Mm-hmm.
to get going. And what I was noticing was those biodegradables, depending on the size, like I see there's a 10, 20 tray, and it's got one, two, three, four, five, six, it's got eight, maybe seven of the little personal trays within that bigger tray.
Mm.
So, it makes it a lot easier to stack them. You could even have a variety of them in one tray. So maybe somebody wants to mix and match. So they want a tray that's half this, half that. That would be, That would be pretty easy to pull off with those biodegradables.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Cool. So, okay. Getting back to math. Okay. Okay, so what are we leaning towards now? Getting those same flats you were talking about at first, or getting something else?
I would get the 1020 flats and then get the smaller biodegradable ones for the personal that can be maybe they're half the size of the regular traditional trays.
Mm-hmm.
So you can fit two in one traditional tray and then have like two different variations of seeds, of microgreens.
Uh-huh. So how much would it be for the biodegradable trays?
Oh, hold on. I was looking at seeds. I got ahead of myself. Um, oh, so they don't make a 1020 tray that, interesting, that's biodegradable. Um, Microgreen containers. Greenpaperproducts.com looks like you can get 240 for 73 dollars. Those are the clamshells that close, like the 6x6.
Are those biodegradable?
Mhm. Well,
Cool.
it says in industrial facilities, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were talking about the biodegradable plastics.
Let me see. Um,
Which just ends up in a landfill too. I mean, I would think it'd be cooler to buy something growing on either like one of those mats,
mhm.
or or in a tray that I can just throw in my compost pile.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't know why no one has really made. So I see the ones that they kind of look like they're cardboard.
Uh-huh.
Were you looking at more of the plastic ones?
No, I mean, I was just looking at just those flat mats that they grow on, and just thinking you could, grow those, lay those down in those trays, and then just lift them out and shove them in a paper bag to sell to people.
Hmm.
Either that, or like a food tray, like a cardboard food tray,
Hmm.
and put this dirt in the compost in the bottom and grow it out of that and just sell that. Similarly, like if you wanted to put it inside something, again, just like a paper bag or something, that would just be totally compostable.
Hmm.
I'm also wondering about compostable. Uh, there's
Sorry, I
also
was
these
doing
like
some research.
another option might be these compostable cellophane bags. You could like put it in the bottom and kind of bunch it up
Hmm.
on top, and then that would look better. You could actually see the product through the bag.
Mm. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Um, yeah, I need to do more research on this because I'm clicking on these different links
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not really seeing what works, but I'm seeing a lot of research. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is
So
that
there's like a 12
compostable?
ounce. They have round ones. Okay, if these are biodegradable, I think we have a winner.
Oh yeah.
But Okay, 10 trays are going to cost $52.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. These aren't biodegradable. These are BPA-free self-watering.
Mm-hmm.
But I did find the biodegradable, the micro mats. Those look, could totally grow on those.
Mm-hmm.
And the bamboo grow mats are pretty cool.
Yeah, if you search for cardboard food trays, there's lots of options there.
Okay. Yeah. Do you wanna go to the seeds maybe, and we'll do some more research on the
Yeah.
compostables? Okay.
Okay.
I'll do that. But yeah, the grow mats look really clean. I mean, compared to any kind of soil or medium, I guess. But I mean, I like soil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the research behind growing soilless and growing with soil with microgreens. If the nutrient density is better, if you have more enzymes because you're using a quality soil with amendments. So I've got to look into that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the grow mats are. It looks like the bamboo ones. You can get 100 of them for $150.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, um, yeah, and it would use a lot less water. Which, I mean, I guess I don't use a lot of water to begin with, but
Yeah, and I wonder about using compost tea with those mats. Just water them with compost tea, because then you would actually get the particles of compost in the mat.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, and then they've got all kinds of seeds.
Mm-hmm. Seeds. So yeah, an estimate on seeds would be like what?
25 pounds for $78. It's like the average.
Right. You'd have to get multiple kinds, right, to grow all the different kinds of greens, though. So
Mm-hmm.
how much do you think you'd end up spending to get started? Bless you.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
There's like, I don't know, allergies or pet dander or something going around. Okay. Yeah, it looks like the radishes are a bit more. They're 125 for 25 pounds. So I would probably not. I would want to stay in that range of $78 per 25. Okay, there's some other peas for 20. So I would say on average $80 per 25 pounds of seeds. Yeah, I wouldn't go with the high price stuff just yet. I just want to do like a proof of concept and then go into the more exotic ones.
How many types? Like three or five? What would you buy?
Yeah, I would say like, yeah, maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so that would be a total of how much?
We're gonna look at
Money.
Let's see. Let's just do the 80, I guess. That'll get us so about 400.
$400.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah, and let's just say on some sort of trays or containers of some sort, you're going to end up spending another couple hundred just to budget for that. So yeah, is there anything else that you would need to get to, get this started?
Just figuring out, yeah, the packaging. There might, unless it's sold in the trays, I definitely need to figure out packaging
Yeah,
and get
well, that's
that.
what I was saying. Basically, just whatever kind of packaging you could. Let's say we're just we're budgeting $200 for that.
Mm-hmm.
just to have
yeah,
enough to get started.
yeah, that works.
Okay, so then the total, hold on, let me add these together. Okay, oh, come on. $200 plus $180 plus $400 plus $200. $980.
$980. Okay.
Okay. So is this something that you could pay for yourself? Do you need to do some fundraising first? What's your deal?
I could probably cover most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to get all the racks, or a couple racks up and going, that's no problem. Do like a proof of concept.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, cool. So, okay, hold on. I really need to copy and paste all of this into a different question because we have been talking about our expenses. And sorry. Okay. But this question was really more about, the first question was about your financial goals for the next year, the next 3 to 5 years, and then more than 5 years. So if you, wanted to set a goal for this coming year, are you just wanting to kind of get this going on your own to try to make it sustainable in the next year, or do you want to definitely like have enough of an income to get a space in a year?
I would like to see like one pillar that is consistently profitable, so that I could start looking at a bigger location. I'm really drawn to finding a half acre to an acre location that can be, we can run fundraisers on, and work out some kind of relationship where it can be, ideally it's land that hasn't been grown on before. It can be converted into, something in the midst of the city that provides for, a good quantity of food, 60, 70 tons, and that has all those moving parts. That's really the ultimate goal. And that's, I would say it's in the works. Every day I'm chipping away at it, as far as getting grant ready, getting, fundraiser ready, working on that, the whole administrative part, of the nonprofit and stuff. But I hope within a year that this would be, maybe the microgreens, the mushrooms, or both, would kind of be a regenerative sort of business, that income can go back into a bigger yet like project.
Yeah, so I mean that's really saying that it's profitable, meaning that there's some extra income beyond what you need to make it sustainable. So, what does that mean for you? Like, what's your financial goal and how much money you need to make so that we know how much extra would be profit?
Mm-hmm. That's really, it's a good question, because I tend to separate like what the nonprofit would need to make versus myself.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine, but I think it is important you pay yourself.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean,
figuring that in.
yeah, I would love to not really have to jump into tech a whole lot. I would love to be able to do things like this full time, and that's really my my ultimate goal is to be able to pursue my passion, full time while making a living. And so, I mean, that's a tough number to quantify. I just want to see it get to the point where it can start having people who are educated, people who come in, we educate them on how all this works, how to set up a brand new rack, how to do this in your own community, wherever you are, how to do it safely, and also pay people, who are coming and not to come and learn.
So how much money do you need to make?
True. You know what? Your mic cut out. No, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
How much money do you need to make?
So I would say it would need to be bringing in, let me just run this based on 50 flats. 50 flats at 20 each, 1,000. So let's say 4,000 a month would be great, because that would allow me to bring in volunteers who could be converted into employees. It would allow for a slow expansion every month of another rack or three, and more product. So it would actually, assuming this is a hit and everyone loves it and we need to grow more. So it would allow for all that while bringing in people, training people, paying them a fair wage, and hopefully even investing in other people's, setups as well. And it's like, hey, we're going to help you set this up. We're going to train you. And then at the end of a month, we're going to walk away from it and you're going to own it, because the profits would have paid off what we put into, something like that.
Okay, so you want it to be bringing in $4,000 a month?
Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah.
much are you
Yeah.
going to pay yourself?
Myself, probably well, I guess it would depend on how much work I'm putting into it at that point. But assuming at that point that it's mostly volunteer run, employee sort of run, and I don't really have to do a whole lot, just kind of oversee it, and I can go jump into other projects. I wouldn't need to really make a lot from that, like 1,000 a month, maybe, to cover the electricity, to cover the water, to cover the gas deliveries. Yeah.
$1,000 a month to you would include covering your expenses. It wouldn't be your pay to yourself for you.
Probably not. No, I don't think. I think that it would just. Um, yeah, that's tough. I hadn't really thought about paying myself. I just thought about making this thing profitable and just um, trying to just save and save and save for the next sort of thing. Yeah, because I would have to really quantify how much time this would be eating up at 4,000 a month, 50 trays, I guess every
Yeah, well, and
2
it's in
weeks.
your house. So even if you got some people coming in to help you, I doubt they'd be able to come in often enough to really offset the amount of work you're going to have to do. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, you're probably going to have to do more work teaching
Mm.
and overseeing them. I would guess it'll balance out. And from my experience working with volunteers or even
Mm-hmm.
just new employees or having interns, it about balances out. I end up spending as much time as I would just doing the work myself, because I have to teach them and oversee them and,
Wow.
communicate with them about coming in and, if anything, it ends up taking me more time, but
Mm-hmm.
usually about balances out. I would spend just as much time doing it myself.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
And that's the nature of nonprofit work. That's the nature of people always say, oh, we're going to do all this with volunteers. I'm like, okay, well, who are you going to pay for as much time as it's going to take to do all of the work yourself to supervise the volunteers? Because it takes just as much time
True.
to supervise volunteers as it does to do it yourself. I promise
Yeah,
you.
I
I
see that.
promise. So especially at first.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So yeah, and there's a huge turnover rate with volunteers too. I mean, unless you're gonna like just even with employees,
Hmm. Hmm.
talk to any company, and they'll tell you, onboarding new people is incredibly expensive.
Hmm.
They want to avoid it as much as possible. So yeah, and then with volunteers, it's even worse because people are quitting all the time.
Yeah.
So it ends up being way more expensive to have volunteers um, often than to just pay people to do it.
Hmm.
But yeah, so you're going to spend a lot of time doing this. I doubt you're going to get away with, having this be a part-time operation if it's going to bring in $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
And then you got to sell it
The
too.
logistics. Yeah.
Uh, delivering it to your who are you going to sell it to?
Yeah. And potentially even farmers markets that cost money to attend, to set up, to get a table,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff.
It's a
So
lot of work.
yeah. That is the harder part really
Mm-hmm.
with all this, of course, is the getting it actually sold,
Mm-hmm.
generating
Mm-hmm.
flyers, communicating with businesses. Um, a lot of health conscious businesses, I think, already are really carrying it. A lot of restaurants that are,
Mm-hmm.
more on the health conscious side. So it's, if anything, it will at least spread the word and, sort of open up the conversation behind local food. And so yeah, all those selling points really have to be addressed, and those beneficial points, behind hyperlocal and um, nutrient density and things like that. I think, um, yeah, finding the clients is going to be consistently is going to be, I think, the biggest challenge in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, you need to do some market research here,
Mhm.
figuring out how much of a market there is for this, and what avenues there are as far as distributors. Because the easiest thing would be to get a distributor, to find somebody who's already selling products to farmers markets or restaurants or grocery stores, and just say, yeah, I can provide you with this many trays a week.
Mhm.
If you can sell them, you're going to have to give them like a 20 to 30% cut, but you won't have to deal with it.
Right.
If you
Hmm.
wanted to make this more of a local thing, then you're gonna have to find some way to involve people more, to do workshops, or to do the idea you had of doing like a food bank to get people to show up and um, have people coming to you for some reason that you can sell it directly.
Hmm.
uh, yeah, if you wanted to make the full amount and not go through a distributor, you're going to have to build up your own audience and your own following, which makes sense if you had a community garden thing going, but you don't have that going yet. and,
Yeah,
and it's
that's
not
the bigger
it's
piece.
not the time to be doing this through events.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, you can't like
Hmm.
have some big weekly event and expect to sell it there.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is that, well, I mean, there are still some farmers markets going on. Um, yeah, but
Yeah, but you're
the
probably not going to want
constrictions
to
there,
buy a farmer's market booth for yourself just to
not
sell
initially.
microgreens. No,
No,
no. There's going to be
maybe.
somebody else there who would sell it for you.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know about there in LA, but here in Oklahoma we have several distributors who I know who will sell other people's products at their farmers market booth, and
Mm-hmm.
I did that myself. I had several different farmers products at my booth because I was
Mm-hmm.
just selling mushrooms. So I have this little
Sure.
cooler with
Mm-hmm.
mushrooms, but around it I had baked goods and canned goods and vegetables, and I had all of these other things that I was selling from other people at my booth. So
Mm-hmm.
you could find somebody who's doing that. Unless you wanted to become that distributor, but then you're looking at a whole full-time job just doing that.
Right, right. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I mean, I'm also looking at, hyper local. Like there are still many restaurants just within a 3 mile radius here that are still operational. Yeah, the outreach. It's going to take some outreach, some education, putting up that page, the microgreens page on the website, which hopefully will be done within the next 2 weeks. Um, and getting it on the Instagram and the Facebook and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, I do encourage you though to get some stuff, and I mean, maybe you don't have to get all 4 racks going at first. Get 1 rack
Mm-hmm.
going. Get enough stuff to just set it up and get it going, because it's going to take you a little bit to like get your space all set up and tweak this process, figure out how to do it with these various trays that you're using. So yeah, I think you could get going with this pretty quickly and easily, and then you just need to figure out some outlet to sell some of them. Whether that's just going to your farmers market, talk to the various vendors and say, hey, I want to grow some microgreens or some microgreens. I'm just starting out with this. Would you be
Mm-hmm.
willing to sell my microgreens? I can do this many flats a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to be growing that much to fill one person's farmers market booth. If they're willing to just do it on commission. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, I mean, I think it's worth trying, but I think we should do some more research and consider other options. And yeah, I want to talk to you more about my mushroom idea. I did hesitate in like divulging the full details on the live stream because I think it's a good enough idea that it's worth something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to give it to you and see if you're interested in experimenting with it.
Oh, thank you. I'd
Yeah,
love to partner with you on it. I
yeah.
mean, I think LA is a great place for nutrition and health, and I think every year, it's becoming more and more of a critical factor, you know.
Hmm.
Plus,
Hmm.
I mean, the anti-cancer properties of both of these are
Hmm.
really huge,
Hmm.
and they just have so many benefits. So I really feel like, regardless of, you know, even if it doesn't sell, it's something that I would continue doing
Yeah.
for on a personal. I know family will buy it. I know friends will buy it. I know
Hmm.
close friends will buy
Hmm.
it because, you know, know, like, trust,
Yeah.
and everyone is concerned about health and
Hmm.
immunity and detoxing these
Yeah.
days, and it's
Yeah.
really smart,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Well, and I just had, and we're at time, and I do want to wrap up soon, but I just had another little idea of a way to distribute. You could do some sort of like a CSA,
Hmm.
and have people pay you a membership monthly or yearly or
Hmm.
whatever, and they would just get a tray of microgreens once a week,
Hmm. And
and then
mushrooms
and
and something
mushrooms.
from the
You can
garden,
add exactly, and it could include coming out to the garden, and I'll do a once a week class or whatever, and
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
people could just pay you a monthly fee to be a part of that club, and they
I
could get
like that. Yeah.
microgreens and whatever else you're growing
And training,
and
they can
training.
learn, hey, we want everyone to do this. We want to work ourselves out of a job. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's really true. Like,
Yeah.
really, I want to see every one of my neighbors doing this to some extent. It would be
Hmm.
amazing. Not everybody's going to be into it, but if everyone did, that is a huge dent out
Hmm.
of a broken sort of food system that
Hmm.
it just needs a little shift.
Yeah.
And that would be a really positive shift for a lot of people. I think that would have measurable health and wellness outcomes, which is really the bottom line of what I want to see be accomplished. So
Okay, cool. So we're getting there. We're just kind of at this new stage of brainstorming, trying to figure this out. So I think we're not making a lot of progress in the workbook right now, but yeah, I like just talking through these ideas with you, and I think
it's
we
great
need
energy.
to, yeah, I think we need to keep doing this, and we could meet again really soon and just keep hammering at this until we kind of land on something. And but yeah, some research would be really good to do in the meantime, looking at prices
Market
on
research.
things, yeah, and
Okay.
looking at market research stuff. So
Yeah,
all
I'll
right.
head over to a Santa Monica Farmers Market. I'll head over there if it's still open and see what's going on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me,
Thank you.
Isaiah, and thank
Always an
you,
honor.
our viewers. And, you can check out, my website has everything on it, regenerativedynamics.com. And then if you go to the Regenerative Revolution page, I've got everything embedded, including the schedule, the calendar. I use a Google Calendar to schedule all of these out. So if you want to know when the next one is, my website's easy to go to. It's also on Twitch. I've got this Google Calendar embedded on my Twitch page at twitch.tv/regenrevolution. So, please check it out and join us next time, because, we're throwing these ideas out at each other. I think it would be even better if there were more people here with more ideas, helping us get clear on this. So, all right.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.